So good afternoon, section 2. As I mentioned in the email, what we're going to do today is instead of physically meeting at Fordham later this evening for class, what I'd like to do is review the material that we're going to talk about using this video and combining that up with the PowerPoint presentation that I've sent you. So I'm going to walk through it, and what I'd like you to do is follow along with me, take some notes. If you have any questions, send me an email. If you have any comments, again, let me know and we can discuss. But let's get going. So I think it's going to be easier for you guys. I know you have finals and a lot going on right now, so it's probably more efficient use of both of our times that we not go in tonight, especially since there's no presentation tonight. It's just a lecture. It would take about an hour or so in class. Instead, let's just do it online, okay? So first off, when you open up the PowerPoint, the first slide you're going to come to is the how to think about almost any communication on page 2. This is the slide I like to review in the beginning of every class. Take another look at it and really memorize this. Learn to think about it. Use it for almost everything you do with regards to talking to people, presenting, meetings, designing things, etc. Slide number 3. Life After Death, PowerPoint 2012 by Don McMillan. So this guy's a comedian. And he makes fun of PowerPoint and how people use it and how he uses it, etc. But he makes a lot of really good points. The overall theme for this entire PowerPoint section is to understand less is more. The easier these are to read, the less complicated they are, the more simple they are, the better, right? The more stuff you have, excuse me, I've got an ambulance going by. The more stuff you have in your PowerPoint presentation, the more distracting it is to your audience, the more it takes away from their ability to listen to you and focus on what you're saying, okay? So in general, less is more, all right? Watch that video by Don McMillan. It's pretty short and he's quite funny. You'll like it. And then when you get done, come back and we'll move on to page 4. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that now. All right, great. So I'm assuming you've watched the Don McMillan video. Now let's move on. Slide number 4, why use visual aids or PowerPoint at all, right? Good speakers use visual aids to enhance a well-delivered presentation. Bad speakers just want the presentation to do all the work for them. They want the PowerPoint to distract the audience. They don't like to be in front of audiences, so they let the PowerPoint do all the talking. Huge mistake. If your audience is reading the slides, they're definitely not listening to you, right? So the slides are really a distraction for you as the speaker, okay? Moving along, page number 5. Key functions of visual aids. So they can enhance memory, they make emphasis, they reinforce ideas, clarify thinking, they can illustrate or enumerate, count, etc., and they can build lots of interest, okay? Integrate visual aids effectively. So if you're pointing to the slide, right, you want to stand. It says here speakers, audience left, speakers right. It doesn't really matter. It depends how your audience is set up. It depends how the room is set up. Try to avoid pointers, those little laser pointers. We've talked about those. I think they generally turn your audience into cats. I don't like it. The audience starts watching those things rather than listening to you. And then cue the audience, right? Like when you're going to reference the slides and you want to talk about the slides, show them the slides clearly in a certain way. We'll talk about touch, turn, talk in a minute. But make sure the audience knows where you're going. Okay, so relate to your slide. So use the TTT technique. I'm on slide, page number 7. Touch, turn, talk. So this is when you'll turn around, you'll touch the slide, then you'll turn back and face your audience, and then start talking. So you don't want to be talking and looking up at your slides. You don't want to stand here speaking away from your audience. Face your audience and talk to your audience. You can gesture to what you're going to talk about so that they know that you're referring to something on the board, but then come back to them and make sure you stay focused on your audience. Don't stare at the screen. You'll see this a lot with bad speakers. They're going to sit and turn and they're just going to look at the screen and stare and stare and stare. Don't do it, right? Focus on your audience. Let's move ahead. Slide number 8. Follow 4 design guidelines. Use message titles as one. Use readable print. Think visually, and KISS. Keep it stupid simple. KISS. We'll talk about all 4 of those. First off, number 9, message titles. So if you look at page number 9, very simple, right? Sales. You can tell it's over in millions. We've got it labeled 40, 30, 2010, and then 3 years, 2011, 2012, 2013. Right? Gives you some information, is what it is. Now let's move on to the next one. Slide number 10. Sales hit new peak in 2013. Now this is a little bit different. Now you can see that by using those message titles effectively, you can highlight something in a particular way. Now it looks like, wow, a new peak, 2013. Look at the next slide, number 11. Sales are flat year over year. Now if you go back to slide number 10, you'll notice it's the exact same picture. It's the same chart, same graph, same everything. But just by changing the message title, you completely change the message, right? You could really influence your audience one way or the other, depending on which way you wanted to do it, based on that simple change in how you labeled the message title. So message titles, if we go to slide number 12, improve comprehension, clarify the main point, they help the visuals make standalone sense, and they work well in a tell-sell situation. Now, readable print for PowerPoint. In general, make it big. So you see here on slide number 13, we've got 24 point for the subtitles, 18 on the X and Y axis. At least that, maybe even bigger than that, maybe much bigger than that. Depends on the audience. If you're writing, if you're going to be standing at a board and writing from time to time, just again, write it big. Make sure everyone in the room can read it. When you're typing, use readable typography, right? Avoid letter junk like bold, italics, all this kind of stuff. Don't use all caps. A sans serif font like a Calibri or an Arial, something like that. Sans serif without the little serif marks, the little ticks and things. Let's look at slide number 16. Think visually. So you can see here we've got some different pictures. They simplify data, show concepts, add emphasis. I recommend in a lot of cases you build your own charts, your own graphs. Do it yourself and do it simply. Represent everything simply. You don't have to have every single number. You can have the detailed data in the back of your presentation in a bunch of addendum slides, right? You don't have to present those up front with everything else, because if it's too much information, if it's too much data, all that kind of stuff you can have at the end. For the slides that you're going to build, for the charts and graphs you're going to show, keep them super, super simple. Let's look at 17. So think visually. So there's all kinds of different charts you can use: bar, line, column, scatter pie. Now if we go to slide number 18, think visually. MBA time management. You see these numbers, this little survey. Now let's move ahead to slide number 19. You can see how you pull apart the 35%. You put it in a pie chart. It stands out. You highlight job search different than the other words. Suddenly it starts to make it's a lot easier to see what's going on and reference and what point you're trying to make just by highlighting with these colors and the different charts. Now we go to slide number 20. Typical MBA group projects, right? More notes, lots of writing. You can imagine if your audience is reading this, it's going to take them a few minutes. They're not listening to a word you say. You've completely lost them. Now think visually. So if we edit and we get rid of a lot of that, it already looks cleaner. Now let's move to slide 22. Think visually. And you start to see, even just using black, all black, and the arrow down, the arrow kind of showing us how things are getting worse. They're going down, and boom, boom, boom. Now using color. I'm on slide 23. Back to our sales chart. Now let's look at slide 24. We add some color to the yellow, and now sales hit new peak in 2013. So you're really highlighting the sales in a certain way, and the color really helps it stand out and pop. Look at slide number 25. Back to the time management exercise. So look at the way they use color, right? It starts light and then it gets darker. We could have even used red. Maybe red would be more effective there, showing how things are getting worse. Using color. Add color to clarify. Consider the impact of color. Maintain limited palette. Remember visibility issues. Now let's look at slide 27. KISS. Keep it stupid simple, right? Keep it really simple. That's a good rule of thumb. So slide number 28. Design simple charts. Eliminate chart junk, which is all the little extra stuff and extra colors. Use builds to avoid overload. So this is when you have one part come in, you talk about it, push a button, another part comes in, talk about it, push a button, another part comes in. So builds are a good way to sort of talk about what you want to talk about when you want to talk about it, and the audience doesn't read ahead. The issue here is you got to practice these and get used to them so you know exactly how they work and you can walk through them effectively. Keep bars, pie slices, data points, and arrows to a minimum. All right, so in other words, keep it simple. Keep it simple. And then finally, on slide number 29, there's a great video here. Click on the hyperlink for a guy called Guy Kawasaki. He talks a lot about the size of that he recommends you use for PowerPoints. It's a good video. And then he's also the one that came up with this 6x6 rule. The 6x6 rule is basically no more than 6 lines per page, no more than 6 words per line. It's not an exact rule. Like, you can obviously violate a little bit here and there, but generally speaking, the idea, again, less is more. Keep it limited, edit, edit, edit. When in doubt about visuals, text, charts, etc., remember, the simpler, the better. All right, look, that wraps it up. That's basically what I wanted to talk about tonight, so we can do it pretty quickly here on video. Review through these videos. If you have any questions, ask me. You're going to do a team presentation at the end of the semester, and you will be using PowerPoint. So this will come back. Make sure you understand it. It's relatively simple, I think, but on the other side, PowerPoint is an area where a lot of people make big mistakes. They over-design them. They make them too complicated. They rely on them too much. Keep it simple, all right? Thanks for everyone. I appreciate your patience. Again, if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, shoot me an email, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Monday, coming up soon, March 12th, back at school, 5:45 p.m. Take care.